Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today in our simulated classroom. Today we're going over 10th grade social studies lesson. And our topic today is how small is our world? Today we're going to be looking at learning and understanding the connection between countries and the rippling effect that the actions of one country have on another. I'd like you at the end of this project to be able to describe the interconnection of the world, to identify the conditions in other countries, to name some achievements and contributions to society generated from other countries. The first country that we're going to be going, or the first region that we'll be going over is the Middle East, or West Asia, which sits where Africa, Asia, and Europe meet. There are approximately 20 countries that make up the Middle East. The countries of the Middle East are all part of Asia, but for clarity reasons, we generally geographically recognize them as separate land masses. And as you can see, there's 20 countries here. And these are all part of the Asian continent, but we do separate them in Afghanistan, Bahrain, Iran, Iraq. These are all in the news on a daily basis. So we know that our actions today impact the countries that are in the Middle East. And the actions of the Middle East impact our country on a daily basis. We know that oil is a hot topic. We have, in the Middle East region, we have Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. We know that we have some issues with Afghanistan and Iraq. And those are all part of the Middle East as well. So everything that happens in the Middle East can impact us, and everything we do impacts them. Now, some countries that were originally considered the Middle East are now considered European countries based on their economic and political trends. Countries that are considered in the gray area of the Middle East are Armenia, Cyprus, and Georgia, the former Russian Republic. Also, Egypt, an African country, is sometimes considered the Middle East as well. The next region we're going to be going over is Africa. Africa is the planet's second largest continent. It includes 53 individual countries. It contains the Nile River, which is the world's longest river, and the massive Sahara Desert, which is the world's largest desert. Its highest point is Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, which is 19,341 feet, while the lowest point is Lakasel in the small country of Djibouti, which is 512 feet below sea level. The next region that we'll be studying is China. China ranges from mostly plateaus and mountains in the west to the lower lands in the east. In the east, along the shores of the Yellow Sea and the East China Sea, there are extensive and densely populated plains. On the edges of the Inner Mongolian Plateau in the north, there are grasslands. Southern China is dominated by hills and low mountain ranges. In the central east are the deltas of China's two major rivers. Most of China's population resides along those riverbanks. Next, Latin America. In most common contemporary usage, Latin America refers only to those territories in the Americas, and that's Central America, South America, and North America, where there are Spanish or Portuguese languages which prevail in those regions. Mexico, most of Central and South America, plus Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico, and parts of the Caribbean, as well as smaller numbers of French speakers in those regions as well. So that's all considered Latin America. And lastly, Mexico, our closest neighbor. The United Mexican States, commonly known as Mexico, is a federal constitutional republic in North America. It is bordered on the north by the United States, on the south and west by the North Pacific Ocean, on the southeast by Guatemala, Belize, and the Caribbean Sea, and on the east by the Gulf of Mexico. The United Mexican States are a federation comprising 31 states and a federal district. Mexico covers 2 million square kilometers, and it's the 5th largest country in the Americas, and it's the most populated Spanish-speaking country in the world. So what I'd like you all to do today is I'd like you to separate into groups of 4, and I'll give you a country to study. And when you're studying this country, I'd like you to look especially at contributions of the country and achievements. You should find 3, and it would be very easy to find. Can anyone think of some achievements from either Latin America or Mexico or the Middle East that they can think of off the top of their head?
Oil from the Middle East.
Oil from, very good. That's good. Thank you, Drew. Fireworks, yes, from China. Absolutely. That's correct. All right, very good. Well, there are many contributions that each of these regions bring to us. And so what I'd like you to do is to concentrate on 3 contributions or achievements from each of the regions. I'd like you also to pick out 10 vocabulary words from the region. Now, there are many words, especially you'll find them when you're studying Mexico and Latin America, that you'll see that we use in our common vernacular. We use them every day. And those words are words that we have learned from being in California, especially. They're common words. So I'd like you to find 10 words that we use on a daily basis or in our English language that are from those regions. I'd also like you to collect data for each of the regions and have a group presentation to show the class. So as a group, 4 of you will talk about one specific region. So you can divide it as you please amongst yourselves. The data that I'd like you to collect for each of the regions is I want you to find out what type of government you'll find in each of the regions. I'd also like you to find out what the views are of that region on the United States and on their other neighbors, because you'll see that some are friendlier than others. As you know, perhaps in the Middle East that would be a hotbed where you have some neighbors there that may not be friendly towards others or towards us. You may also find in other areas some resentment, in China perhaps. So I'd like you to look especially at their view of their other neighbors. I'd also like you to look at the currency of that country, their language. I'd also like you to look at the literacy rate, which is very important. The life expectancy rate, the child mortality rate, the population of the country. I'd also like you to look at the access to safe water, the access to adequate sanitation, and their economic status. These are all very important. These are things that, living in the United States, we take for granted. We can call up a utility company and have our power and our water turned on. We can call on the phone and have a pizza delivered. And yet in some of these other countries that we consider third world countries, they don't have access to those things on a daily basis. So I'd like you to please look at those things and study that portion. Now, I'm going to pass out a matrix to you that will be how you will be graded. And it's a presentation matrix. And I'd like you to grade yourselves in the group as a presentation, and then I want you to grade the other presentations as well, because I want you to know what you're graded on. I want you to see the criteria for your grades. So I will pass this out to each of your groups. And I'd like to thank you for being a part of my simulated classroom, and I hope to see you again soon.